One rough day at the office. First day for Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. A few days into his tenure as Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth must deal with a plane crash in Washington, D.C. involving an Army Black Hawk and a passenger jet headed into Reagan National Airport. We had Pete Hegseth in his first exclusive interview yesterday on the Cain Show. 2, let's talk to the guys from Ruthless about the way the ladies from The View are treating new White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt. 3, pass me the vitamin C. Pass me the zinc. We got to get right. It is the Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Every Monday through Thursday, live at 12 o'clock Eastern Time and on those same digital channels. Make sure you hit subscribe. Drop into the comment section. Become a member of the Willisha. You can also subscribe at Apple or on Spotify and listen to the Cain Show whenever and however you like. I got a text yesterday from one of my buddies listening to the Cain Show on KRLD in Dallas, Texas. He said, I thought you had a fill-in yesterday. Your voice, it didn't sound like you. Yeah, it's me. And in fact, it's one of those voices where you're like, can I always sound like this? A little gravelier, you know? Like I've been smoking a pack of Marlboro Reds. A little deeper. I also got a lot of emails from viewers. I've got your emails. Hey, Will, load up on some vitamin C. Hit the zinc. We need you back at the top of your game. I hear you. I'm muscling through. We muscled through yesterday with an hour with Meat Eater founder Steve Rinella. But we had one hell of a show yesterday on the Cain Show. Breaking news left and right. And the kind of show that I really end up liking and want to have, where it is unpredictable. It's unproduced in that you don't start out the day saying, here's exactly how it's going to go. Instead, middle of the hour, Christy Nome is ready to break some news about DHS defunding NGOs who help facilitate illegal immigration. And then, during a commercial break, I get a phone call from the Secretary of Defense. He says, I want to come on now. And so, yesterday, he had his first interview since becoming confirmed as the Secretary of Defense. Let's get into that with story number 1. It is a rough day at the office. It's a rough day for America. Some 67 people appear to have lost their lives in Washington, D.C. A regional jet headed from Wichita, Kansas to Reagan National, flying over the Potomac River, collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter. It appears that everyone involved perished. Second day on the job for our friend, the new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. Roughly the third or fourth day on the job for our friend, the new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Conflicting reports about what exactly went down. It appears that, from what I've read, the Army Black Hawk helicopter was crossing through the flight path of planes taking off and landing into Reagan. Not uncommon, from what I've been led to believe. Air traffic control warned the Black Hawk helicopter about a regional jet and asked, in fact, if they saw it headed their way, to which there was an affirmation from the Black Hawk. There is some suspicion they were looking at a plane taking off to their right and not a plane landing to their left. They banked or climbed and hit a midair collision then with the landing American Airlines Flight from Kansas. Most of the time, this type of thing is attributable to human error. Was it an error on behalf of air traffic control? Was it an error on behalf of the Army helicopter pilot? The investigation will have to reveal. President Trump and Pete Hegseth and Sean Duffy were both just at the podium a little bit earlier talking about, though, this is an opportunity, while not laying the blame necessarily on any particular air traffic controller or any particular pilot, but this is an opportunity to revisit the standards we hold for everyone and ensure that we have the best and the brightest in all positions. They talked about a story from 1 year ago where DEI initiatives under the Biden administration suggested that FAA and other government departments should prioritize those with severe intellectual disabilities and psychiatric disabilities. They, too, should be represented. Again, there is no indication that is what played a role, other than we know human error played a role in what just happened in D.C. Yesterday, after I got that call from Pete, he did focus in on the new standard at DOD, and that is colorblindness and merit. Here's what he said in his first interview on the Will Cain Show. It was one of the first things you did. You wrote it looked like on a notepad. DOD does not equal DEI. What's being done right now to cut out DEI in the military?
Well, President Trump put out the executive order on it. We've got our directive coming out today. It might even be out already. And I think President Trump said it perfect in his inaugural address, which is what we're reinforcing in our directive as well. DOD will be colorblind and merit-based. Colorblind as it has been and merit-based as it should be, because as you know better than anybody, DEI sends the opposite signals. It's picking winners and losers. It's pitting people against each other based on their color, their background, or their gender.
That's what Pete Hegseth had to say yesterday. At that time, little did you know, there was a tragedy on the way that he and Sean Duffy, the Department of Transportation, would have to handle. We wish them the best of luck in dealing with this. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone involved in this horrible tragedy and the families who have lost loved ones. We pray that we have the right leadership to put in place the right people to keep everything running, not just safely, but the best way possible here in America. Don't look away from the Will Cain Show. That's going to be the way it goes. I guess I would have, had I thought about it, prepared and promoted the fact that we have the first interview with Pete Hegseth. But in retrospect, I like the way it went. Don't look away. You never know who's going to call in. Don't look away. You never know what's going to happen next on the Will Cain Show. I do know what's going to happen next on this digital streaming live version of the Will Cain Show, and that is we're going to be joined by the boys from Ruthless to break down everything in the news. That's coming up next on the Will Cain Show. Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr. right now in hearings before the United States Senate seeking their confirmation. I would suggest a renewed urgency to get Donald Trump's cabinet picks into place so that we can deal with the unexpected crises and the agendas of Donald Trump. It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, Fox News YouTube channel, and Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. In fact, let's dip in, if we could, for just one moment, and let's listen to what's going on in the confirmation hearing with the nomination for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
In Syria. The question specifically that I raised around these two came about because there were two reasons. One, that assessment was made with high confidence and low information. The information that they had came from those on the ground in an al-Qaeda-controlled area, and therefore were al-Qaeda-linked sources. And there was conflicting information that came from the UN's Office on the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons Inspectors, as well as an MIT professor, Ted Postel,
who
looked at
him
these
for a
extensively.
Second. So did you look into his credentials, yes or no?
Yes.
And were you aware of his appearances on Russian Today, which is used by the Russians to disseminate government-approved messages?
No.
Were you aware Postel relied on a chemistry student with a record of defending the Assad regime?
At that time, I was not. I have been made aware since.
Let's take down the audio 2 days. Keep the video up if you could for just one moment. One of the things that she's answering for here is her visit to Syria and her conversation with Bashar al-Assad. She has had a very good answer to this question, and that is she does not believe American leaders should close off any potential conversations. I want to point out one thing that I notice as you see this video. If you look over, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or on radio, I'll explain this picture to you. Tulsi Gabbard is sitting there in front of her Senate hearing wearing all white. She looks stunning. And over her right shoulder, as she's speaking, because I happen to know him, is a Navy SEAL named Kaj Larson. And I just think it's kind of fascinating to see, not unlike what we saw with Pete Hegseth, the support Tulsi Gabbard has from actual warfighters when she's accused of treason by people that sit up on that panel. Behind her, she has the support of actual warfighters. Also taking place right now is a second day for RFK Jr. He's again taking questions. Let's take a moment now, if we can, and switch over and hear what's going on in the confirmation hearings with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Will you confirm again today that the trip had nothing to do with vaccines?
My purpose in going down there had nothing to do with vaccines.
Well, I have in my hand a blog post in 2021 in which you say the anti-vaccine group Children's Health Defense, which you ran, offered to fund the purpose of the trip to Samoa. And in the same post, you state that the trip was ultimately arranged by an anti-vaccine activist. And during the trip, you met with an activist who later compared vaccine mandates to Nazi Germany. And during that trip, you also discussed vaccines with the Prime Minister and the Director General of Health of Samoa. The Director General of Health said you specifically discussed your views on vaccine safety fears. And with unanimous consent, I will submit those blog posts, Mr. Chairman, into the record.
Without objection. Can I
I'm going to
reply
ask
to
you
that,
again.
Senator?
I'm going to ask you. I'll ask you again. Did the trip have nothing to do with vaccines, as you told my colleagues on Senate
Nothing to do
Finance
with
yesterday?
vaccines. And if you want me to explain, I will.
Did it have anything to do with vaccines?
No, it did not.
It did not. Well,
My purpose in the trip was not to. I ended up having conversations with people, some of whom I never intended to meet.
well, again, an anti-vaxxer helped finance your trip.
Well, you call them an anti-vaxxer. That's not what they would call themselves. They call themselves safe
Right,
vaccine
this is a
advocates.
conversation
I went
here.
down there.
I believe that's between Senator Ed Markey and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about what happened in American Samoa some years ago. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is accused of going there and proselytizing against vaccines after there was several vaccine deaths in Samoa. And then months later, when they adopted some of these measures, there was an outbreak of measles, I believe, that ended up killing 12 children in Samoa. So that's, for 2 days, you've probably heard this story brought up when it comes to RFK. All right, let's break down RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and much more now with the boys from Ruthless. We've got John Ashbrook, Michael Duncan. They are the founding partners of Cavalry. They're also the co-hosts of the Ruthless Podcast. And after a incredibly charming performance on Jesse Waters' Primetime last night, they were kind enough to join us here today on the Cain Show. What's up, fellas?
Will, thank you so much for having us. Glad to see that you're upright. I mean, this audience gets more out of you than they get out of almost any other host on any other show. You're standing, you're delivering, even though you're sick, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, you're like the Ryan Seacrest of the Fox universe right now. Kind of doing it all, pal.
What's that? Everywhere. I got to worry. Well, I got to be careful there, Duncan. I can't be, I can't risk overexposure. I can't be Brian Kilmeade, No, I saw you guys last night on Waters. It was great. You guys did a great job. And for those of you listening, these guys know I'm a little under the weather, not just because my voice is in particularly manly today, but because I had to cancel on them and doing Ruthless yesterday. I thought maybe 3 hours was a little much to push the voice yesterday. I could only do 2, but I appreciated them understanding. So let's start with RFK, guys. You know what's weird to me? Betting odds, I looked this morning, it's at 76%. After the hearing yesterday, I think it went up to 86. It's hovered in the 80s. It's really high. It's really high compared to what I feel like I'm hearing from the panel in the Senate, even among Republicans. It feels more antagonistic than the betting odds seem to project for RFK.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like he did a really good job, I think, of fighting back against both the Democrats and Republicans on the committee who were skeptical of his confirmation, particularly around the vaccine issue. And similar to what we saw in the Tulsi hearing as well, it seems like a lot of their attacks are this guilt by association from a long time ago, the Assad thing, and then this American Samoa thing. And it's all how they characterize it, right? And RFK said there in that clip you played, they wouldn't call themselves anti-vaxxers. You call them that, but they're interested in the health care of children, right? And so I think he really did a good job of disabusing people of the notion that, he's going to do a poor job at HHS.
Yeah, and another thing that caught my attention about that exchange he had with Ed Markey, far left-wing senator from Massachusetts, was that this is day 2 of Democrats driving this vaccine narrative. And RFK said yesterday very plainly, I am not anti-vax. He was unequivocal. But Democrats aren't satisfied with the black and white unequivocal answer because it messes up the bullshit story they're trying to sell to everybody. So you have another day losing time, asking him the exact same questions over and over again. And it's just like there's no... Not only were they not paying attention yesterday, but it lacks a lot of creativity on the Democratic side of the aisle. And I hope that these betting markets are right, because when people went into the voting booths last November, they voted for change in Washington. And there were a lot of people who were swept up by the MAHA movement. They want something different from the American healthcare system. They want somebody who's a leader willing to question all of the assumptions that we just bought into over the last who knows how many years. And RFK can do that. And so there are a lot of people who cast their vote in November who are crossing their fingers that he can get across the finish line here in the next week.
I want to come back to that, what you just pointed out, Ashbrook, about the coalition that helped elect Donald Trump. But let's stay on vaccines for just one moment. This whole vaccine conversation. So first of all, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not someone that I sign up for 100% of his opinions. And I'm sure that you guys don't either. I mean, over time, he said things on climate change or gun control that I am diametrically opposed to. But I don't require for him to be the lead of HHS 100% fidelity to my own personal opinions. I had Steve Ranella on yesterday. He was like, I don't know anybody who shares all of my opinions, including my wife. These are big ones, though. I mean, I will say these are big ones. But on the vaccine thing, it feels like the left has turned that into so many of other issues they have. It's like it's a flag they fly, and it's either you're pro or you're anti, right? And you're forced, like you said, Ashbrook, into this dichotomy, this black and white proposition. Are you on team vaccine? Are you on team anti-vaccine? Where it's like, what I like about RFK is I'm not sure he's right about everything on every vaccine, but I do think he's thinking through a lot of it. And I think that we should think through a lot of it. We should make individual health decisions, and we shouldn't be forced into this situation of, oh yeah, no, I'm on team vaccine for sure. Absolutely. All cases, all times, I'm on team vaccine. Can't we have critical thought about it? Can't we have some disagreement and some individual choice about vaccines? And can't we explore the effects of vaccines? Do they have ties to any negativities, any negative externalities at all, Ashbrook?
You have a lot of regular people out there who ask these questions every day. They wonder. And then when they're faced with like what they see on TV from Democrats in Washington, they get exactly what you talked about. No. Don't ask any questions. If you ask questions, you're crazy. And RFK said yesterday, I am not anti-vax. But people want questions asked. And isn't that part of science? Isn't the whole idea behind science to have a hypothesis and then get to the bottom of what's behind it? Like, I think that people want something different. We know that people want something different from their government, which is why they voted for President Trump in November. I mean, it wasn't just a small victory either, where he won the Republican states and then eked it out in one of the purple states. He won every single battleground state and the popular vote. There's a reason for that, and people wanted change.
Yeah, in my question back to every person who's criticizing RFK, excuse me, is who exactly is satisfied with the status quo? Yeah, I mean, not the American people who elected Donald Trump, not the American people who had to, survive through 2 years of COVID lockdowns and a government that basically, shut down any sort of criticism of vaccines or, any of the procedures around COVID. I think it's healthy. That's part of the scientific method, is questioning your assumptions. And that's what I like about RFK. I mean, America should be healthier. We have a chronic disease problem in this country. We have a childhood obesity problem in this country. Shouldn't we be asking the questions why?
Exactly.
Yes. And to both of your point that both of you have made now, I think these Republican senators, and I don't know who it will be. Right now we're watching Lisa Murkowski questioning Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think these Republican senators might not be reading the room. Now, they might be reading a different room. They might be reading the room of whoever is, contributing to their campaigns, whether or not that's the pharmaceutical industry or the ag industry. But the MAHA movement was really important. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm really not sure if Donald Trump wins the presidency without RFK Jr. And if they turn their back on him now, these Republican senators, there's going to be a lot of people really upset. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are currently in the coalition who are counting themselves in some way as Republicans who will look up and go, well, I feel like I was had. You know, I'm not with these guys, whatever this team is, Team Republican.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope they're listening to the voters because, like you said, Will, I feel the same way. I don't necessarily agree with everything that RFK believes, especially on climate. But President Trump promised us, I'm not going to let Bobby touch our oil. And at HHS, you're not involved with energy decisions. You're not involved with forcing climate change down our throats. That's not his purview. His purview is health. And that's to your point, that led a movement that delivered a lot of votes for President Trump. And you can't look at that and turn the other way and pretend like it didn't exist. People want change.
Yeah. And Will, honestly, all of these scandals seem pretty small potatoes for RFK. I mean, the last time a Kennedy was in the United States Senate and he drove a woman into, over a bridge into some water and she died, and they let him stay in the Senate for 47 years. So, I mean, I like his odds.
Yeah, how incredible would that be if you brought that up? Senators, I think I'm well below the Kennedy line.
I mean, his own family has just been absolutely vicious against him. I saw something about Caroline Kennedy calling him a predator the other day. Just unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah.
You know who I saw echo that this morning? Actor, I think it was Billy Baldwin, said, I used to be his friend, but I echo Caroline's sentiment that he's a predator.
Huh.
That, you're right. I'm like, predator. That's not like he's rude. He's not a good guy. He's a predator. That's like a whole nother level of accusation. Like what was he hunting as a predator?
Right.
Strong. All right, let's move over to the ladies from The View. Karoline Levitt gave her first press conference as White House press secretary. And this is what Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg had to say about Karoline's performance. Watch.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table.
Huh. Okay. The View.
Thanks, Whoopi. Yeah, thanks a lot for that incredible analysis, Whoopi. I'm sure that more people are going to watch The View now after they've learned that you're even more of a moron today than you were last year at this time.
Yeah, I thought the audience for this show was women.
What is that chart where ignorance? What is that chart where ignorance and certainty correlate to one another? What is that chart? You guys know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're
dumber
talking
you
about.
are.
Yeah, it's
the
like
more
the
certain you
less
are of your
people actually
righteousness.
know. Yeah, exactly. I can't remember the name of the chart, but that's 100%. I love the part where she said this is her first job. I mean, Caroline Levitt, I believe she ran for Congress. She's worked, on Donald Trump's campaign. I mean, this is somebody who has credentials to have the job that she does,
Right.
and I think she's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, and there's so much more power in showing people than telling people, as you know very well, Will. And what she showed the entire world, her first time at the podium, was excellence. I mean, we haven't seen that well executed of a press conference from the White House press secretary in years. And I think that this is another example of President Trump making just an outstanding choice for somebody on his team. It sets a tone that his administration is very serious this time around. They really know what they're doing. And I'm telling you, man, I don't know anybody who is an honest observer who wouldn't tell you that she was very impressive on that first day.
Yeah, I
So
think what
rich
she
to
does
have
really
The View.
well. I think what
Go
she
ahead.
does really well, and I think we saw J.D. Vance do the same thing in that interview on CBS News with Margaret Brennan. But there's a new attitude among Republican politicians, and that is we no longer have to accept the BS premise of the question that the liberal media asks. You know, there was the question that someone in the front row of the briefing asked about, well, I mean, how many of these people who are being deported are criminals? And she said, well, all of them, because they crossed the border illegally. That makes them a criminal. And for too long, we've sort of played the game of the left and accepted their language and their rules for how we're supposed to, you know, conduct politics. And it's just a false choice to have to play their game.
Yeah, Michael's exactly right. What that sounded like 20 years ago was Republicans asked a question about immigration. They're like, well, our country is a nation of immigrants. We're also a nation of laws. And then their quote gets put to the bottom of the story. And then you have 20 years where nothing is done about the border, nothing is done about immigration. Contrast that to right now, where you have complete, unconflicted, real leadership from this administration, where they just aren't going to take it from the press and the Democrats anymore. And I think that's why people are so excited here after just 1 week of President Trump in office.
Look, I want to say that's because Republicans of the past ran in fear of a negative story in the New York Times. What we've seen is the decline in influence of the New York Times and the ability of a politician to go directly to an audience. I want to say it's that, but then I remember, no, it's not. It's because of Donald Trump. And that's the only reason. Like, the way that he handled the press directly gave everybody inspiration and confidence to be able to do it like that themselves. Reject the premise, be strong. And I look, everything can come off as Trump sycophancy, but the truth is, I think, to properly reflect his place in history requires some level of acknowledgement that he's a singular figure and he singularly changed the course of American politics. And the way that we handle so many of these baked-in institutions, like The View condescendingly suggesting that she do her homework. Joy Behar, by the way, she thinks Caroline Levitt's pretty hot. Watch.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
What everyone is saying, this is the first time that she's been she may be. But my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
There we go. She's a 10. That's why she got the job. And by the way, we're not going to dive into the debate of whether or not she's an 8, 9, 10, 7. We're not going to do that. But we are going to say, I don't care if that did play a role. I don't care if Donald Trump likes the aesthetics. If he thinks it's part of a good public face to look good. He says it every time, by the way. Look at Pete, good-looking guy. You know, whoever it may
Central
be.
casting.
You know, it comes right out of central casting. Yeah.
What is it that Deion Sanders says?
Look good, feel good, play good, get paid good.
I like that, Duncan. Wish he was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That's really good. Good for you to be able to rattle him off, by the way. Did you guys, Duncan and Ashbrook, did you guys like Caroline's answer, though, about the drones in New Jersey? She confirmed they were legal flights, FAA, I guess, sanctioned for quote-unquote research. A month ago, this was like 24-hour news cycle stuff. And now we're like, okay, it's cool. Everybody knew, you know, which I don't know why the Biden administration couldn't just say that, but it does leave an open question. Like, what are they researching? Are you satisfied with where we were on this story that drove everyone's attention not long ago?
I mean, I'm satisfied. All the American people wanted was a little bit of information that their government knew what was happening. That's it. And in that vacuum, everybody's imagination runs wild. I mean, who wants to think that there could be all of these drones off the coast of the United States and the government has no clue what it is? All the Biden administration had to do was acknowledge that they had it under control and that this was all kosher. But they refused to do that. They refused to provide even a scintilla of information that provided confidence to the American people. So, yeah, I'm satisfied by our answer. It's all I really wanted.
Yeah.
I want to know more. Agree. I want to know, what were they researching? You agree with me or Duncan?
To be honest with you, I would like to know what they're researching, but I'm satisfied with this answer, especially coming from the source of President Trump's administration. If they have a good reason to not tell us the details of what they were researching, okay. But I mean, the acknowledgement that they know what's going on and that there's some sort of certification process and that this isn't like an Iranian mothership over New Jersey, and then a bunch of
That
Goombas
never made
out there
sense.
like firing off their guns in the backyard. Like, I mean, it brings a little bit of like sanity to the conversation.
Yeah. That Iranian thing, that was a congressman that said that. That never made any sense. Like, if there's an Iranian mothership, hey, shoot it down. No, it always made more sense that it was us and it was ours. And we were looking for something, researching something. Now I'd like to know what it is we were researching, what we were looking for. We talked about RFK and the voters requiring this kind of change, this kind of, we'll call it radical approach to health. I feel the same way about D&I, and I feel the same way about the FBI. And right now, on Capitol Hill, Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard are sitting in front of their committee hearings. Do you guys, you're there in D.C., Tulsi's betting odds are way lower. They're like 56%. Kash is high. He's at 93%. Do you feel like this kind of radical approach to shaking up these institutions is something that is going to will it find its support with Republicans?
Man, I sure hope so. And the clip that you led off with, Will, with Tulsi and this guy, Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona, who was like pressing her on past associations. What he's not talking about is the controversy that has surrounded him for years about his connections to China and businesses with ties to the CCP. This guy has been as controversial on that score as anybody else. So it's not like he's got clean hands in any of this. And what most impresses me about Tulsi Gabbard is her background. In 2003, she enlisted. Think about what was going on in 2003. We were rolling into Iraq, and she took the affirmative step to enlist, and then she was there deployed for a year, like not long thereafter. It takes a special person, somebody who cares about our country and is willing to put their life on the line for what they believe. And my question to these people making the decision is like, if she's good enough to go and fight and possibly die for you, why isn't she good enough to then lead a security operation in this country? I mean, she worked her way up through the military ranks. And I understand that there are some questions about she was a Democrat for a while. And those are questions that she has been faced with in these meetings with Republican senators. But I'll tell you, the one guy who I watch on security issues almost more than anybody else is Tom Cotton from Arkansas. This guy cares very deeply about national security in our country. This is a guy who put his life on the line for years and years serving in our military, and he is now basically running intelligence on the Senate side. And Tom Cotton supports her. So I think that is as good of a vote of confidence as you can get anywhere in her ability to do the job, and I really hope people follow Tom Cotton's lead. I mean, I'll say the same thing about Kash Patel. I don't want to just go on and on and on, but I mean, Kash, he worked for the Obama administration. He was awarded by the Obama Justice Department for prosecuting terrorists. You know, like these people are decorated. They've worked these jobs, and Democrats gloss over it and try to not let that be a part of the conversation. But we can't forget these are well-qualified people for the jobs they've been nominated for.
It's a great point about Tom Cotton. I mean, he's about as hawkish as it gets, and if he is supporting Tulsi Gabbard, that's quite a statement for D&I. Duncan, I'm particularly excited about Kash. I really am. I just think I don't think he's putting on an act, man. Like, I've met him in person. He is like no nonsense. Like,
he is
Kash.
a no nonsense guy. He has tons of experience, to Ashbrook's point earlier, bipartisan experience, like actually doing the work. And I think the FBI in particular, if I had to pick like one of these agencies that needed to be, shook up, the FBI is number one, top of the list.
Agreed.
Back from 2017 when Jim Comey's going to Trump Tower and telling President-elect Trump, hey, I have this dossier. Congratulations on being president. But were you in Russia, urinating on Russian prostitutes? I'm not going to tell you about the provenance of this information. Of course, it was coming from Hillary Clinton's campaign, and he was using it to basically entrap the president-elect. I mean, a disgusting act. And I just hope Kash can get in there and refocus the FBI on its actual mission of catching bad guys. It seems like common sense, but common sense is rare in this town.
Yeah, I'm excited for those very same reasons about Kash Patel. What are you drinking, Duncan? What flavor of LaCroix you're rocking here today? Let me see.
This is a guava. This
some
is a
kind
guava.
of berry.
Yeah, it's a guava San Paulo.
Guava.
It's delightful. It really dances on the tongue.
I can hear your testosterone dropping. I heard you use the word delightful. I'm going to make you guys a deal. I'm not going to pretend that I discovered Ruthless, but I was early to market. Okay, so here's my deal with you guys. You can go on Jesse Waters and you can do all that. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But when we start rotating you into the 4, which is going to be very soon, in fact, right after the show, I'm going to call my EP and say we're going to get Ruthless into the rotation on a fairly regular basis. You do it from that set with those microphones. You go do that, McLaughlin Report set you were with Jesse last night. I don't know what that was with the wood paneling and the light blue. You can go do that with Jesse. But that set with those mics, that's for the Will Cain Show. Can we make that deal?
You got it. It's a deal. And I mean, I'll tell you what,
on
we
TV.
are very...
On TV.
Yeah, we will do it. We will do it.
We'll do it.
Scout's honor. We are very proud members of the militia over here, Will. So whatever you want, we'll do.
Okay, deal. You can do Megyn Kelly off that set. You can do a lot of things, but no other Fox shows. That set is for Will's show on Fox. That's the deal I want. All right, Michael Duncan and John Ashbrook here today. Check them out. It's the Ruthless Podcast. Go hit subscribe. Thank you, fellas. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
All right, there they go. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. And I want to show you, I don't even get it. Tinfoil Pat wants to talk about this. Squint your eyes at this cheeseburger. And who do you see? All right, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it in the commercial break. I'll do it live when we come back next on The Will Cain Show. All right, there's something going on right now. I don't know what it is. Welcome back to The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. All I know is James and two-a-days are laughing. And they're laughing. Okay.
Oh, it changed.
What are you guys laughing? What?
Someone got a new haircut there, bud.
Tinfoil got a haircut.
Yeah.
Everybody was laughing about it, but it doesn't look so different to me.
No, it looks like he changed it during the break.
He did during the break.
It was really like poofy out here. It was like the opposite of that Tim Tebow haircut back in the day.
Damn it. I wish I took a screenshot. It was so funny. I mean, it looks great.
Why did you laugh so hard and let him know?
I didn't laugh to him.
Do it back.
I didn't laugh to him. It was when you put your head.
Do it back, Patrick.
Yeah. What did you do?
It just gets crazy, you know?
No.
I can't really.
No, go
yeah,
like
it was
this.
like that.
Like
yeah,
this.
it was like
there
that.
We go.
There you go.
I got a lot of hair.
That's what it looked like.
This is what it was?
Like Conan O'Brien or something?
Yeah, that's Conan O'Brien.
Oh
that's Big Wave Dave.
It was more.
That's like when I was a kid, we used to go to Crazy Shirts. I don't know if you guys ever remember Crazy Shirts, but that was like before T-shirts, they had crazy T-shirts. You have to go to this place called Crazy Shirts, and they had all these like fake beer ads. But one of them had a haircut like that, and the guy's hair was like a wave, and the dude surfed on the wave. And that's what your head looks
That's
like.
Literally what it looks
a wave
like.
breaking.
Was it kind of like the Misfits,
I needed that. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to admit to the audience something. I did this during the commercial break. I didn't wait. All right, this is your thing, Tinfoil. You wanted to put this up, this conspiracy. This cheeseburger.
Oh, yeah,
All right,
okay.
Put it up.
Okay.
All right.
Did we put it up? It's on the screen?
Put it up 2 days. All right, right? Everybody who's watching on YouTube, Facebook, whatever. It's a cheeseburger. If you're listening, it's just a cheeseburger. Double burger. Lettuce. Looks like cherry tomatoes are chopped up in there. I'm not sure. Some onions. Big sesame seed bun, right? But it says squint your eyes. Tell me what you see. So I'm going to give everybody a chance. Squint your eyes.
I think the pixels are overlaid in this. Like, I think
You really
the
have-
person that it is underlaid in it with the cheeseburger
Oh, yeah,
over.
for sure,
Like, it's
for
definitely a Photoshop job.
Yeah. It's
You guys are saying that this is actually
like
manipulated?
Yes.
I think the opacity.
I would bet 100%.
I think
that
the
it's
opacity of the actual picture is underneath. I think he's.
I don't
right.
think there's just burgers out there that look like.
And then they filled it in.
This is how it went for me when I did it. I was like, okay, I see a mustache.
Yeah,
oh, there's
him.
the eyes.
Yeah, it's him.
I did think, I don't know why, but I did think it's a black dude. I don't know why I said black dude, because then I questioned myself, like, why?
The burger?
And then I realized, okay, he's bald. The bun, he's bald on top.
The chat's
And I'm
getting
like,
it.
but he could be any race. Why did I say black guy? And then it jumped out to me. It's Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
It's Steve Harvey, right?
It's great.
Yeah.
Oh my
If he
god.
didn't have a mustache, it could have been Gary Shandling because of the big lips. But other than that, it's Steve
What's the
Harvey.
lip? The cheese?
It's like yeah.
Yeah, the
cheese.
Cheese. Yeah.
The cheese. Yeah.
It's so
It's
funny.
making the rounds on the internet right now, so thought it'd be interesting.
There's a lot of these, though. To your point, 2 days. Is this done digitally after the fact? There are a lot of these, right?
Like there's a lot of
where you're
Jesus
like,
ones where you could see Jesus if you squint your eyes like really hard. A lot of those going around.
Right.
And it's like a picture. It's like a inappropriate picture, but then like it makes up a picture of Jesus.
Guilt,
Yes.
baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's watching.
All right.
So
there you go. Steve Harvey. He's in your burgers. All right. Right now, Kash Patel still testifying, as is RFK Jr., as is Tulsi Gabbard. We'll keep monitoring that. Donald Trump gave a press conference on the plane crash in Washington, D.C., along with Pete Hegseth and Sean Duffy. We'll keep monitoring that. And we will see you today at 4 o'clock on the Fox News Channel. Until then, I will see you again next time.